All right, so first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who attended either on Zoom or attended with a slight delay on YouTube. We were having fun monitoring all of the conversations that were happening on YouTube and trying to pick out the various questions for the presenters. There were both great conversations happening around the topics and topic adjacent, as well as great questions to the presenters. To the presenters themselves, I had a lot of fun listening to your talks. There's definitely a few I'm going to have to go back and rewatch because I was busy trying to respond to questions on YouTube or capture questions, and there's definitely some things I want to see again or understand a little bit better. I appreciate everything I've learned so far and what I'll learn going forward. I also want to give a special shout out to Daniel Newell, who doesn't seem to be on the Zoom anymore. I said this yesterday, but Daniel approached me months ago over the members Slack and said, how can I volunteer with the LCS? What do you need a hand with? And I said, hey, we've got this digital language creation conference coming up sometime next year. You can help out with that. And Daniel helped me figure out the date, helped me figure out how to call for abstracts, vet the abstracts, and create the schedule, as well as figuring out problems with time zones for some of our contingent in Germany and the UK, and certainly in Australia. We have some very different time zones to consider. Margaret, being from Hawaii, had to be up nice and early this morning to participate in the language relay, but I think we did the best we could there. Daniel was also, this was his first Conlang relay, and he stepped all the way up to be the relay master. So he was able to wrangle all of the cats and pull everything together, and a few technical hitches by Zoom and audio aside, I think was a great relay. On that note, I'm going to do a little bit of editing with the slides. Some people have sent me some corrections or some MP3s after the fact. I'm going to take tonight and tomorrow off, but Tuesday I'll probably get to those edits, and I'll get all of the slides PDF'd and sent over to C, our wonderful webmaster, who will make everything available online. I also want to thank Sai. Sai has been doing almost all of the background work, which I hope was easier this year with this interface. But Sai has been segmenting all of the videos out as each of the talks end so that they can be viewed separately on YouTube for anyone who wants to do that later. Sai has been grabbing Twitter handles and links and adding those to the comments and making sure everything is accessible as possible. And they've also been messaging me both here and on Slack to make sure I didn't forget things, or if weird permissions were showing up, things of that nature, and coming up with extra ideas like our continuing social chat. So we had a great turnout last night for the social chat on Zoom after the conference wrapped up. Jamin hosted that one. We're going to do the same thing tonight. So after this wraps up and after a brief pause to wrap up the YouTube streaming, we're going to launch that subsequent Zoom, and Sai will host us there. And you're welcome to drop by and chat and ask follow-up questions, anything of that nature, and just hang out. One thing for the presenters, many of you have sent me PDFs of your slides, so we can post those to the website. If anyone hasn't done that yet, please, I'll say please feel free to do so. We'd love to have them. And once I have those, I'll forward them on to C, who will be able to upload them onto the website so people can not only go back and watch the videos and hear your explanations, but take time with the different slides and different examples. Sai has also completed or created a Google Docs form that I'm sure they will share the link for. It's in the YouTube chat now. This is a completely optional forum, but we'd appreciate your thoughts on what's going on in the, or what went on in the digital conference, what you thought of the different talks, what you thought of the format, the layout, how informative or easy to communicate it was, anything of that nature. All of the questions within the questionnaire are optional, so if you don't want to provide an answer to a particular question, feel free to skip it. If you enter your email address, you will then be able to go back in and edit your responses later just by providing your email address again. But again, we'd really love to hear from you, not only to know what the demographics of our audience are, but to find out what you thought. That prompts me to talk about something Sai and I were talking about in the Slack conversation, is the incredible diversity of presenters and participants we've had. The LCS and conlanging in general has always been a collection point for people of all different walks of life. But what struck both Sai and I this time is we had multi-generations of conlangers, from fairly young conlangers in their teens all the way up to people who were talking about remembering the birth of digital conlanging in the early 90s when they were finding each other on the internet for the first time, which says nothing about any of our ages. But the multi-generational, multi-representative in terms of how people identify, and multiracial makeup of all of our presenters and participants. It's really cool to see this melting pot happening where we can all come together in a safe space and discuss something that we're all passionate about. And I definitely want to reiterate something that was brought up yesterday, is that we are a very open society. We are very accepting. So if your personal identity changes, evolves, becomes more clear, or you decide to come forward with the way you're feeling, even retrospectively, we are willing to make changes to how we portray you on our website and our social media as best we can. So you're very welcome to reach out to us if any edits need to be made in the future. I think that was almost everything I want to say, but the last thing is the board of the LCS meets every 2 months to discuss what's coming up, what's happening, anything we need to respond to that can wait for a bi-monthly meeting. We're going to cancel next weekends because we've all had a lot on our plates recently. And like I said yesterday, it's okay to not be okay. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but we'll come back in another 2 months where we're probably going to be discussing what's the next LCC going to look like. I personally believe that it will be safe to meet in the future by the time the next LCC rolls around. Hopefully the vaccinations continue to roll out and they prove as effective as we all hope they are. But what will the next LCC look like will depend on the proposals we end up getting. So in terms of explanation, somewhere in the spring or summer, most likely, we'll put out a call for proposals, and people can write back to us suggesting where they are to be a good location for a conference, showing us the facility that would be used, proposing a budget, and a time frame for when the conference would potentially be held. And then we'll gather all of that information and we'll look to make sure it ticks all of the boxes, and we'll open it up for community feedback in some form or another before ultimately deciding where the conference will be. The last conference was in Cambridge, UK. The one before that was here in Calgary, LCC7. So we do like to bounce around between continents. So we're probably looking somewhere in the Americas, or at least that would be our preference for the next one. And then we'll bounce back to a different side of a different pond. And I think that's it for me. I really hope I remembered to thank everyone. If I didn't, sincerest apologies, but everyone, presenters, background volunteers, I can't say staff, officers and directors of the LCS, and everybody that came together to present or contribute their talks on, or their comments on YouTube. Thank you so much for making this, once again, a very memorable LCC for all the right reasons, not just the fact that it was our first digital one.